Welcome back to another video, you guys. You know, actually, I just thought of something, and it's not super profound. So you guys can click off now if you're not interested. But it was kind of interesting and profound to me. Like, I had a moment of aha. You know, the hardest thing, you guys, the hardest thing about getting into real estate is just starting, right? Like, when I was broke, my credit was bad, right? Like around the low sixes, maybe high fives. You know, I had $1,200 to my name. It took me 13 months of grueling, agonizing work, doing stuff I hated, to save up a measly $20,000. And I only say it's measly because I used 13,500 of that. What's that? 75%. I used like a huge chunk of that to buy one house. One. That's really hard. Like that. I mean, that's hard, right? Feel free to comment down below if saving $20,000 isn't hard, right? And then giving 75, and forgive me, I'm terrible at math, but giving like a huge chunk of it away, 75% or something like that. For a down payment. However, once I did that, it still was hard because I had to leverage that asset by renting out rooms to people, to strangers, right? From Facebook and Craigslist. I rented it out to strangers because at that point, Zillow did not let you rent rooms on their platform. And this might even been before they bought HotPads or whatever. So there was, you know, only a few places you could market a room for rent. Anyways, so I did that. I lived with strangers. I saved up money. I did whatever I could to save up to get another property, right? And it took me probably another year or so. I don't remember exactly. I'd have to do the math, but it took me another year or so to save up. Maybe it was longer. It might have been 2 years. It took me a long period of time to save up $70,000, which again is an even bigger chunk, right? So like I basically just had to 3x, right? 246. So I had more than 3 times the amount of money it took me to get into the house. It took me to get into a 4-unit building. And the reason why I did that was because I wanted more cash flow. I wanted to diversify my income, right? I had 4 renters at the house because I was the 5th, right? 5-bedroom house. Then I went to go get a 4-bedroom, or not a 4-bedroom, a 4-unit apartment complex. And that building allowed me to diversify my income even more, right? Then I had to move into one of the units, but I had 3 other families, 3 other people helping me pay the mortgage there. And same thing with the house, right? When I left, I had somebody take my room and they were helping me pay for the house. In fact, a lot of my cash flow came from that 5th bedroom. Like my cash flow tripled or doubled or tripled when I left. And kind of the same thing with my 4-unit building, right? Which I just did. I just left and bought a house. And I was able to leverage that to, well, hold on. Let me get into the main point of this video, right? Sorry for all the rambling, but I was trying to like get to this point of like, it's really hard. But then it starts to get easy. And the easy part is when you have an asset, whether it be my house or my fourplex, that has enough equity that you can borrow against. And obviously that's risky. Be careful, do your due diligence, make sure you can afford to do that. But my fourplex, because I remodeled half of the building, just 2 units, I remodeled half of the building, and I raised the rents on those units, obviously. My equity in that property, so I bought it for $670. I put $70,000 down. Weird, I don't know how that worked out, but anyway, so I bought it for $680. So then I owed like $710. or 610. Sorry, yeah. Bought it for 680 minus $70,000 is 610. So I owed $610,000. And then, I made some payments over time, right? That didn't all happen in like a month or two, right? It took me a period of time to do that. So like a year later, a year goes by. So I probably owe $605 on the property. But I've increased the equity in that property. So what did I do? Did I do a cash out refinance and give up my 3% interest rate on that property? Absolutely not. I did a home equity line of credit. And I found a credit union that was willing to give me a line of credit, revolving credit, like a credit card, for $200,000. Because I had the equity in the property, right? Like they knew if I maxed that thing out and didn't pay, they could take the property or they could foreclose, which they can. It's risky. Be careful. Do your due diligence. Run your numbers. Make sure you don't lose your property. Anyways, what I used with this line of credit, $200,000, I was able to buy a second fourplex. That is correct. I took an entire down payment of equity and I pushed it into another property. So I took the 20% equity that I had in property, fourplex number one, and I took, a huge chunk of it, right? It was $150,000 down, way more than I could have saved. It would have taken me 5 years to save up $150,000. Anyways, I took that equity, right? Because I renovated the units. I increased, the equity, over time, plus the renovations increased the equity. I took that and I turned it into a line of credit, and I used that line of credit to buy fourplex number 2. So I took, of the 200,000, I took 150 of that. So again, it's like another 75%. I took 75% of equity out of that property, and I pushed it into a second property. So I have 2 fourplexes. And what did I do with fourplex number 2? I did a 20% down payment. So that property now is one, I bought it for $30,000 less than what it appraised for. So as soon as I signed the paperwork, I made $30,000. And then on top of that, I put 20% down. So now that property is 20% paid off plus $30,000. The other property is now, I basically took that 20% out of this property and put it in that one. So, but here's the thing, right? I have tenants paying down that fourplex. I have tenants paying down the other fourplex. And combined, the cash flow from both is more. It's like maybe even $1,000 more than the HELOC payment. So now I have 2 mortgages and a HELOC payment, and they're all being paid by the renters. So then what did I do? Well, I had another home equity line of credit on my house, right, that I didn't use yet. And because that interest was lower, right, it was 8% instead of the 9% my other HELOC, right, I took that and I used that equity to buy me a house. So I don't know if you're starting to see here, but asset number 1, house number 1, bought me a house. Fourplex number 1 bought me a second fourplex, right? So like I killed myself to save up for the first house and the first fourplex. But now the first house has bought me my second house, and the first fourplex bought me the second fourplex. Are you starting to see the writing on the wall here, right? As soon as you get a couple assets, you can leverage them safely and securely, leverage them into getting you more properties. So I'm here at my door knock here, so I gotta hop off. But I just wanted to make this video for you guys. It is tough getting into real estate. It is hard. First property hard, second property hard, maybe even the third property hard. But then you go all the way back to property number 1. You should have some equity there. And then you can use that to get property number 3, number 4, or number 5, right? So, and then once you do that, wait another year, go back to property number 2. Number 2 should have some equity, right? And I'm not saying you should strip all the equity from all of your properties and max everything out and leverage yourself to the teeth. Don't do that. But be strategic, be smart, leverage yourself appropriately, and make sure everything covers itself. And I'm just going to rinse and repeat this. Like, this is the strategy I'm going to probably rinse and repeat over and over and over again, right? And I'll talk more about how to pay down those home equity lines of credit in the next video. Peace.